Everyone who tells you to build a personal brand is lying to you. Now, not maliciously, they just don't know what they're selling. They tell you to find your niche, optimize your LinkedIn, post consistently, be authentic, craft your story, and none of that is wrong exactly. It's just built on top of something no one has stopped to even question. The identity you're branding. Where did it even come from? And is it actually you? See, this episode is the foundation, everything this channel builds on. We're going to look at what a personal brand actually is, what it almost always turns out to be instead, and what would it mean to build one that's actually yours. Now, let's get into it. In 1997, Tom Peters wrote a piece for Fast Company called "The Brand Called You." It changed how the entire generation of professionals thought about their careers. His argument was super simple. You are a brand, so market yourself like one. And the business world took that idea and ran with it. Personal branding became an industry. There was books, coaches, courses, frameworks. It became a billion-dollar ecosystem built around teaching you how to package and present yourself to the world. But here's what the ecosystem never asked. Is the you that you're packaging actually you? Because here's what we know. Not as philosophy, but as documented, peer-reviewed science. You see, by the time you were 7 years old, the core architecture of your personality was largely in place. Psychologists call it the 5-factor model. That includes openness, conscientiousness, extroversion, agreeableness, and neuroticism. The evidence across decades of studies is pretty consistent. You see, these traits, they show up early. They're heavily influenced by genetics, by your early environment, and they remain pretty stable across your entire lifetime. See, before you could choose anything, before you could vote, before you could read critically, before you had any kind of framework for questioning what was handed to you, the foundation of who you present to the world was already set. And then there's the social layer that came on top of that. There's your family's beliefs about success and failure. There's your culture's rules about what a person like you is supposed to want. Your school's hierarchy of what knowledge was valuable. Your peer group's unspoken contract about who you were allowed to even be. See, you didn't consciously agree to any of this. It just became you. And then someone told you, build your personal brand. But build your personal brand based on what? So here's the truth of all of this. Most personal brands are not personal. They're inherited identities with good photography. You see, the values you lead with, you didn't choose them. They were handed values that just kept you safe. The ambitions you perform, they weren't yours. They might have been the ambitions of your family. Maybe it was something that they couldn't finish that they handed it down. The expertise you monetize. I mean, did you even follow your curiosity to get there? Or did you just follow approval? Did someone say to you something like, now that's practical, or that's impressive, or if you go down that path, that will definitely make us proud? And then you took that, filed it away as your desire? Now, I'm not asking these questions to be cruel, all right? I'm asking them because they're the only questions that matter before you build anything. Because if you brand the borrowed self, the performed self, the socially approved self that is built for someone else's comfort, you'll spend years getting very good at presenting something that was never yours. And there'll be a day, probably not a dramatic day, probably on an ordinary Tuesday morning, when you look at everything you've built, the following, the content, the reputation, the career, and you feel nothing. Not ungrateful, not depressed, exactly. You just feel hollow. Because the person who built all of it was a character. And you've been so good at playing that character that you almost forgot you're even acting. So what does it mean to actually build a true personal brand? Well, let's start with what it's not. It's not your aesthetic. It's not your content pillars. It's not your posting schedule or your tone of voice, your brand guidelines, or your logo. Those things are tools, and tools have a purpose. But a hammer cannot tell you what you're building, and no amount of brand strategy will ever tell you who you actually are. See, building your true personal brand, it's an act of archaeology. You're not constructing something new, you're excavating. You're excavating something that was just buried underneath years of conditioning, under years of approval seeking, under fear, and under this borrowed identity. Carl Jung called it individuation, and it's the lifelong process of becoming who you actually are, separating yourself from everything else, separating yourself from the collective, right? From your family, from your culture, separating from every identity that was really ever chosen for you before you had even language to refuse it. He wrote, and this was in 1921, this was over a century ago. He wrote that most people never undertake this work. They live and die inside an identity that was given to them. And they experience it as authenticity because they never stood outside of it long enough to actually see it as a construction. You see, the personal branding industry has no answer for Jung because the personal branding industry starts one step too late. It assumes you already know who you are. It just needs to help you package it and present it. You see, this channel starts earlier. Before the content, before the niche, before the strategy, we start with one question they never ask. Who are you when you subtract everything that was decided for you? For instance, your beliefs. Which ones did you arrive at through evidence and experience? Which ones did you absorb from your environment before you had the equipment to even evaluate them? Or how about your ambitions? Which ones make you feel genuinely alive when you think about them? And which ones make you feel approved of? Even your personality, the parts of you that get expressed freely, are those actually your strongest parts? Or are they the parts that were rewarded? And the parts of you that are almost never seen, are those lesser parts? You see, this is the work, not building, excavating. And here's what you find on the other side of that excavation. You find that there is something underneath the conditioning, something that was there before the world got to you. A set of genuine interest that nobody taught you to have, and a way of seeing that is specific to you. You see, that thing, that actual, original, unborrowed self, is what a real personal brand is built on. When you build on that foundation, something strange happens. You stop performing, not because you try to stop, because there's nothing to perform. You are just saying what you actually see. You're just doing what you actually care about. And you are just being who you actually are. And people feel that, not because it's strategic, because it's real. And reality has a frequency that no content calendar will ever manufacture. Now I want to be precise about what this channel is. This is not a self-help channel. I'm not going to tell you to journal your feelings or manifest your best life. This is a channel about evidence, about history, about the documented name specific forces that shaped who you think you are, and the equally documented specific process of separating your actual self from everything that was layered on top of it. Because you deserve to know the machinery. You deserve to see who built the cage before you decide whether to stay in it. And here's the only thing I want you to leave with today. The most radical thing you can do is be your most authentic self. More radical than any political act, more radical than changing careers, or more radical than chasing a new lifestyle. To want things that weren't handed to you. To build things no one expected you to build. To become someone your old environment never had a category for. Because authenticity disrupts systems. It breaks patterns. It refuses scripts. It creates new possibilities. And that's not a branding exercise. That's a modern hero's journey. And it starts with one question. Who were you before the world told you who to be. If this episode landed the way I hope it did, it probably raised more questions than I answered, and that's intentional, because the questions are the work. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today. In the next episode, we go deeper into the systems that were built to shape your identity before you had any say in the matter. And if you want to be there for that, make sure to hit that subscribe button, and I try to drop an episode every week. And if someone popped into your head while watching this, that's probably who this video is for. So, thanks again for watching, and I'll see you next time.